Welcome back. Let me turn this down a little bit just in case it's too loud. Alright, okay, so welcome back to another video from Deborah Sawyer of Nonconformist Eyewear. I do all things nonconformism when it comes to my lifestyle, my well-being, fitness, and my second set of Freeform locs. And there's something new that I will be bringing to my channel hopefully in the next few months. I'm still working on it and I'm almost there, so I'll share that once it's at that point. All right, so today I want to say a big thank you to one of our subscribers or viewers. I think she's a subscriber, and her name is Jacqueline TheVisionary. Jacqueline TheVisionary, thank you so much for asking me to share the recipe for the Ital soup I made. I talked about it in the last video, so if you haven't seen it, go check that video out. Thank you for subscribing, liking and sharing, and as usual, yeah, all that usual stuff, I mean. So yeah, Jacqueline said I should share the soup. This is my version, so respectfully to the Rastafari community who do or are known to have Ital soup or Ital food actually. If there's anything I've added into the recipe, I mean no disrespect by it. This is just a version that I like. Okay, so I'm going to divide this video into 4 sections. The first section will be the ingredients, which I'll list in the description box below. And then I'll talk about the recipe itself, how to make it. Definitely look out for part 2, where I will definitely be showing you the ingredients and the process, the cooking process. We'll do a kind of maybe a vlog or something like that. All right. Yeah, that'll be towards the end of next month. So I'll break it up into the ingredients, the recipe, some of the things that I recommend you could add to it, which I would have loved to add to the soup, but I didn't, I forgot, and some things I think I know now. So I've got my book here just to remind me, but I'll put the description of the ingredients. So what you need is Irish sea moss. These are the ingredients I used. No measurements, ladies and gents, if you use the kitchen, and if you're not a kitchen person, then do forgive me. The thing is I love the art of cooking, but I don't like cooking. It doesn't bring me that much joy, but I have to cook. So I don't like cooking. I hate cooking. I have to cook because I've got kids, and so I need to teach them by example. And even though I hate cooking, I cook really, really well. So yeah, I'm a bit of a strange one there. So when I'm talking about this is something I really enjoy doing. But I'm getting better at enjoying the cooking process by doing different things. So anyway, let's get to the ingredients, Deborah. Irish sea moss, olive oil and coconut oil, some water, flour, plain flour for the dumplings, garlic, red onions, the yellow yam, a cut of yellow yam, 1 green plantain, 2 stalks of leek, some fresh thyme, Scotch bonnet whole, you don't cut it, salt to taste, and I use Nutritional yeast flakes, I use pumpkin, and I also use corn flour. So those are the things that I used. And let me just say why I use some of these ingredients before I go into the recipe. So for the Irish sea moss, I had some laying about, and I thought, well, it's got lots of nutrients in it, and it has this thickening, it can thicken soups as well. So I had a bit left over. I'd say that was about 1/4 cup. I'm going to put the link to my friend's video, my friend Maz Naturals, I talked about the last time. I'm talking about her again. I'm going to put a link to her video in the description so you can go see how she makes the Irish sea moss, which is the recipe I follow. So what else did I say? I added pumpkin and corn flour. So anyway, so cut up and wash all your vegetables. All of the vegetables, cut everything up, your garlic, your onions, your yam, your green plantain, Don't cut the Scotch bonnet at all. You want to dump it in the pot whole. Cut up your pumpkin. Yeah, so cut up everything you need to cut up, and then ideally pre-prepare your Irish sea moss a few days before if you want to use it, but you don't have to. And then get your medium-sized pot. You need a big pot actually, not medium-sized, because when you chop all these things up, you get a lot of it. And then, you know, put your oil of choice. I used olive oil, coconut oil. Put it in your pan and add all your vegetables to it. Everything you need to add, salt for taste, add everything into it. Let me see. What else did I use here that I can share with you? Okay, so I've been using sea salt for a long while, or the pink Himalayan salt. It's so much better. Years ago, I used to feel like the regular, is it iodized or non-iodized? I don't know. The other salt, the cheapest salt that we used to use for years. For me, I used to feel like it used to make my heart race a bit fast. I'm not diagnosed with anything, but I then had to swap from that salt to either sea salt, black salt, or Himalayan pink salt. And so they do take time for you to get used to the taste, but after a while it just becomes second nature. So, you know, even though it's not salty, I don't know how to describe it. It's not salty. Yeah, it doesn't have that sharpness to it. So you get used to it. I also used corn flour. I mentioned corn flour. I use that for thickening as well. So, so you've added all your ingredients to your pan of water and oil, and you seasoned it, cover it, and put it on high heat for about 10 minutes. Then you get a bowl, a clean bowl, and we want to put a cup of flour. So I say, start with, I'd say maybe a quarter cup of flour is fine. A quarter cup of flour and a quarter cup of boiled water that has cooled down. So cool the water down. At this point, you can either add salt to the water so that when you combine the salt and the flour mixture that becomes dough is salted. Or you can decide to add salt to the dry flour. And you can also add herbs to it. You can grind black pepper in, you can put cayenne pepper in, you can sprinkle some thyme, whether it's fresh thyme or whether it's dry thyme. So you can add herbs to that mixture as well. And that's it. You don't add any baking soda, any baking powder, any yeast to it, nothing. So you take your bowl of water and you add drops of water into this dry flour. And you keep combining it until you've got a dough-like texture. If the texture is too sticky to the touch, you've got too much water in it. So you need to add some flour to it. Plain flour I'm talking about now. I'm not corn flour, plain flour. You can add a little bit of flour to the wet texture to, you know, make it less sticky. And if you find that it's just too dry, you don't get any touch, nothing, then you need to dab a bit more water in. If you run out of water, just make another mixture up of water, either plain water or salted water, and add it in. But don't put salt in both because you'll overdo the salt. So once you've done all of that, combine it together as a dough, roll it up in a bowl, leave it in the bowl, put it in the fridge, set it aside for 5 minutes, put a cloth over it and cover it. And so between that, you still probably only 5 minutes or a couple of minutes into your cooking. So you want that to cook on the fire for at least 10 minutes. Yeah, that's where it starts bubbling and the rest of it. Then get your dumplings after it's been in the fridge for 5 minutes and start to just take small chunks of your dumpling and roll it in your hands into balls. Roll it into any funky shapes you want. You can roll it into balls, finger, a herringbone. You can flatten it out. You can do all sorts to it. You know, it's for a bit of texture in your soup. And it also is, maybe you like dumplings. Maybe you just like dumplings, okay? So roll it into your soup. And at most, you don't want to cook this for more than 15 minutes at most, because you're going to let it cool down and then you're going to pack it away if you want to, and then you're going to use it, or you might freeze some of it and then you're going to use it as you go along. So you don't want to overcook it where when you warm it up, you're overcooking it and losing all the nutrients. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why you use green plantain for this is because when you use green plantain, because of you're cooking it for some time, it softens up in the soup. If you use ripe plantain, it will become mush, and ripe plantain can be quite sweet sometimes, and you don't want your soup tasting sweet because you got pumpkin in there, which has a sweetness to it. Yeah. Let me see what else I've written in there. So that's why I use green plantain, and I use 1 green plantain. I use 1 red onions. I use 1 clove of garlic. I think I used about 3 cups of water. About a tablespoon of olive oil, and maybe 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, and 1 Scotch bonnet, and 3 stalks of leek I used, and I sprinkled salt on it. A cutting of pumpkin I just sprinkled in some nutritional yeast, and I just sprinkled in some corn flour, no measurements. So some of the other things you could have added, which is coconut milk. If you added coconut milk to it, that would have given it a nice texture as taste as well. You could have added carrots to it as well. That's really nice. Fresh carrots, I say, don't use frozen vegetables in this instance. Fresh would be ideal because it's a bit more tougher when you're cooking it through and it becomes combined. And you could have added cocoyam. Now, I don't know if in other parts of the world cocoyam is called anything else. If you speak any other language, and cocoyam, it's like a small yam, very round, and it's hairy. It's quite hairy. So if you have that where you are and it's called something else, leave it in the comment box below. So cocoyam, if you added cocoyam to it, you would not need to add, certainly not the corn flour for thickening, because that's all I added it in for. Corn flour is okay, but you won't need to add corn flour to it for thickening, because the cocoyam is kind of gelatinous so it gives a thickness to soups. Now, 2 things I don't recommend you add to this soup is broccoli and cabbage. Broccoli and cabbage is those vegetables that give off a lot of gas and smell. When you're cooking, no matter how much you incorporate it into food, by the next day your food's smelling like it's beginning to go off, which it isn't. It's just a kind of, I don't know if it's oxidizing or what. I don't know. May not know the terminologies, but something happens with those things. You tell me in the comment box if you've ever cooked broccoli or cabbage and you leave maybe 2 bits in the pot, like scraps of it in the pot overnight, and the house is warm, and then you wake up in the morning and the kitchen is smelling like, whew, gosh, something's dead in here, but it's cabbage and broccoli. That happens all the time, so my utility room is at the back of my house, but it's next to my neighbor's house. And every time they cook, I go into the utility room. I can tell when they're cooking broccoli through my walls. It actually comes through my walls in my utility room. I can smell it. Every time I go in my utility room, my bin's there, and I say, why is my bin smelling like cabbage? But I didn't eat cabbage. Why does it smell like cabbage? Why does it smell like something's gone off? But it's cabbage. It's the smell of cabbage coming through because their kitchen is next to my utility room. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this recipe. Thank you so much again, Jacqueline TheVisionary, for asking me to do this video. I enjoyed it. Look out for part 2 where we actually cook it. So we've spoken about it. We've talked about the recipe. Now we can show it in reality. My name is Deborah. Thank you for tuning into my channel. Thank you for the love.